Hello, I'm Steven,
And I'm Aaron.
and we've just seen
Wicked
Wicked for
for Good.
Good, new film that's out in theaters right now, starring Ariana Grande, Cynthia Erivo, Jeff Goldblum, and it is directed by John M. Chu. If ever a whiz there was, the Wizard of Oz is one because of the fraudulent things he does. So, Wicked for Good. The sequel, which is really just the second half of the play.
Kind of the third act of the first movie, really.
Yeah. So, the first movie proved to be quite popular among audiences, and I was looking forward to it. This one, because I liked the first one, you and I both did.
Yeah, I gotta say, for the first one, I was quite trepidatious going into it and ended up being very, very pleasantly surprised. I liked it a lot. Despite that, I still went into this one very cautious and trepidatious because it is a 3 hour play that's been chopped in half and turned into like a 5 hour ordeal. So, are we gonna battle all the five armies of this thing? Like, what am I in for?
Yeah, that's always a concern. After watching the movie, I did look it up, and from what I gather, the general consensus is that the second half of the play, which this movie is about, is less positively received than the first half. Like, it peaks with Defying Gravity, and then it kind of dips.
Yeah, that's something I was aware of after the first part came out. Everybody was of two minds. Like, it makes sense that you close the movie with Defying Gravity because it is kind of the peak of the whole thing, and it's a logical endpoint for this part of the story.
And an
But
emotionally satisfying note to go out on.
yeah, but that what follows is not too much to be able to make a movie out of, and not as great as what had come before.
And from what I gather, the reception to this film has been pretty much no different. So I guess I'm sort of the heretic here because I liked it.
I did too.
Yeah. I'll be
I
the first one to admit that this has problems.
Yeah, it definitely does, and I wonder if we're gonna have the same issues. But some of the main problems that I've seen people talk about first is well, one, it's not as good as the first one, and no, it's not. But it's kind of impossible for it to be. The first half is where you're learning about the world, you're discovering everything. It has the better songs, it has the brighter, poppier, fun tone, and this half is significantly darker and doesn't have the upbeat, fun songs that the first one has. But I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. I think it makes sense as dictated by the story that they've decided to tell here.
Yeah, it's baked into the DNA of the play. Supposedly. I've not seen the play. So Oz is running a propaganda campaign against the witch. The witch is trying to expose the wizard. It's extremely simple
Yeah.
and yet very long.
Yeah, it is, and that's where some of the problems come in.
Yeah, a common complaint I heard about this, and I think it's reasonable, is that it's extremely long and slow paced, and yet it also feels like it's rushing through its plot points very quickly.
Yeah, I will say, for the most part, pretty much everything to do with Elphaba, Cynthia Erivo, is pretty good and even great sometimes. I don't think they really drop the ball until like the third act of this movie, and it's very for a very like odd reason. And I think it's a kind of self-inflicted problem because of some of the additions that they made to the story. And then on the flip side, you've got Glinda's story, or Golinda, played by Ariana Grande. Once again, she's amazing here. Everything about her in this movie is fantastic.
Yeah, those two continue to shine. They are carrying all the weight of this on their backs, them and one other actor, and then there's also one other actor who is not doing that. We'll get into that later. They're tremendous still, especially Ariana Grande.
Yeah, the way I kind of view these movies is like the first movie is Elphaba's story, and the second movie is Galinda's. And it's for kind of story reasons, the way the direction of the story goes. The first movie is very much about the formation of the Wicked Witch, like as this idea. And then the second movie is kind of propping up Glinda to become what we know Glinda to be, kind of fully embracing that role for Oz. there's some really interesting character stuff with that, and it's why I think some of the additions for her side of the story are much more successful than they are with Elphaba's. And then you've got the supporting players. You've got Fiyero, played by Jonathan Bailey. Very underutilized in this movie.
I honestly forgot he was even in the first one. So when he showed up in this movie, I thought, wait, who was that again? Because I did not rewatch the first one. I probably should have.
Yeah, he's in the first one and he's likable there. Not as underutilized, I don't think, as in this movie. Even though in this movie he has like a much more important character stakes and arcs and stuff that are going on.
Yeah, he's not falling in line with this propaganda campaign against the quote-unquote wicked Witch of the West, and he's aligning himself with Elphaba.
Yeah, and this is kind of one of the weird things for me is that when he's introduced in the first movie, I was afraid that the story was going to go in a direction that is like so cliched and tired, and it's the cheapest way to create conflict between two characters, if you get where I'm going.
Yeah, and then they kind of follow through with that in this one.
And this one is the follow through on that idea, and I was kind of relieved after the first one. It's like, oh no, they didn't do that. And then this one, they kind of do it, even though it's undone and forgotten about pretty quickly. But it's just kind of lame that it's even there to begin with.
Yeah, a wedge is driven between two people.
Yeah, and it's so unnecessary because you've got everything else that's going on in the world in the background. That's enough to drive a wedge in the first place. You don't need this other thing that we've seen in every other movie ever made. But like he's a nice presence. I like his character. I like him as a performer. And then there's some of the other supporting players. There's Bach and then there's Nessie. And it's a follow through on where the last movie left their characters. But their story is very confusing because what this movie doesn't make clear is that there's been a pretty significant time shift ever since the last one. Because suddenly she's the governor now.
Yeah, I was wondering about that. Was she the governor at the end of the last movie? Or
not that I'm aware of. So, like, where the hell did that come from? And he's, like, working as her assistant or something like that. And,
he's basically her secretary.
Yeah, and she's, like, signing bills or proclamations or whatever, or, law into place.
Yeah, she's signing restrictive bills on the Munchkins of Oz, and she's keeping Bach basically as a prisoner.
Yeah, but, their story doesn't really feel like it's been developed properly because we're just plopped right into the middle of the storyline without having the context of, there being an election or her making decisions that maybe aren't too popular with certain people and like what's the status of their relationship and how is it, developed and progressed. It's so like clumsily handled, and they felt like minor parts in the first one, but here they are like very important characters.
One of them in particular goes on to be a critical person in the lore of Oz without saying too much. And that becomes a big problem, which we'll get to a little bit later.
Yeah, it could have been cool, and I think it even kind of is a little bit, but the way it's executed is just kind of piss poor.
Yeah. The one person that I was saying is not carrying the weight here is unfortunately Michelle Yeoh as Miss Marble. Was she this bad in the first one?
Okay, this is something I was wondering what you were going to say, because I was feeling the same thing. Like, the first one, from my memory, she seemed to be very into it and delivering what she needed for that story. And I don't know if maybe it's the tone of this one being different, but she sticks out like a sore thumb here.
Yeah, we know she's capable of greatness, but she seems so lost here.
Yeah, it could also just be the material is worse this time as well. There are quite a few bad lines of dialogue and some groaners here and there. Take a shot every time someone says, wait just a clock tick, or I'll be back in a clock tick.
Yeah, there's a lot of clock ticks in this.
The material's definitely worse, so it could just be that. But yeah, I didn't find her to be particularly good in this.
And then the other actor who's pulling his weight in a big, majestic way as Big Daddy G, as the wizard,
Yeah,
Jeff Goldblum,
Mr.
baby.
Jeffy Goldblum.
I thought he was terrific. My favorite part of this movie was a long, thankfully, 15 to 20 minute stretch where it was just him, Ariana Grande, and Cynthia Erivo when Elphaba goes to Oz and he almost succeeds in winning her back. That was the best part of the movie.
Well, I mean, the whole idea is the wizard is a charlatan, and he uses his words in his silver tongue, and just that charisma to win over anybody, even people that he has personally wronged in horrible ways. And Jeff Goldblum's kind of the perfect guy to do that.
Those Goldblumisms, which he actually tones down here, they still work in his favor in creating a character who's just charismatic and fascinating, but also menacing.
That's kind of the trick here is that's the line he has to ride, and he does a real good job being real likable, but also like just when you get down to it, he's just a really horrible person, really just a terrible guy.
He's a bad man and a bad wizard.
And it's also a reminder that he can act. He's not just Jeff Goldblum who turns on the Goldblum whenever he needs to, and he just is a weird kooky guy. He can still act. There's some stuff near the end that it's not like a lot of dialogue, but it's just kind of like him realizing things
Yes.
that have happened and choices that he's made.
That right there, without saying what it is, was one of the only instances of connecting a character to another one that I found acceptable. And a lot of it is because of the way Jeff plays that scene.
Yeah. Yeah, so he's a major highlight. And even some of the songs here I liked quite a bit, even though nothing in this movie compares to anything in the first movie.
Yeah, I really liked the Wonderful sequence.
Yeah.
That was the best part. Again, the whole Jeff Goldblum sequence, that was good. And then a lot of people seem to really like No Good Deed.
I liked that one quite a bit, too.
I mostly like the chanting. Melaganana.
Yeah.
I love that.
That could easily be really silly if not executed properly. But it works, just like the melody and the da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. It just, it's an earworm. You'll be thinking about that for a while.
The main issue that I have with this thing comes in the form of the piss-poor way that they try to tie this into The Wizard of Oz. Every character, it seems, has to tie back to Elphaba, and in ways that I don't think are always satisfying or sensical, and in ways that recontextualize the Wizard of Oz story in a way that's like, okay, I call bullshit. This just doesn't make any sense. This was a double agent? I'll just leave it at that. Yeah, the way the lion, the scarecrow, and the Tin Man and Dorothy are shoehorned into this is just ridiculous. They probably could have just developed those characters more fully and added like an extra 30 minutes, because the first movie was like, 2 hours, 40 minutes? This one's 2 hours and 17 minutes. If they had tacked on those extra 30 minutes and spent it developing those Oz characters all the way through the third act, I think it would have been beneficial.
Yeah, the movie already feels like it's too long, but like you said, it's also just too short because some of the major important plot developments and character developments that happen here are just very, very quickly brushed through so we could get the tie-ins done and have the world set up. So it feels really bad once all is said and done with those characters. It's just like, this is how you guys decided to do this? This is really, like, not a great idea, guys.
So what is your final number rating on a scale of 1 to 10?
I liked this for the most part. I got some big problems with character decisions. The supporting cast is wildly underdeveloped and poorly utilized. Poor Jonathan Bailey. He could have been doing anything other than what he's doing here. But Cynthia Erivo, Ariana Grande, Jeff Goldblum, kind of all you need at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And they carry this thing to the finish line, so I would give it like a 7 out of 10.
Agree. 7 out of 10. It's all about the witches and the wizard, baby. They are the glue. And all three of those actors are bringing their A+ game. So overall, we're mostly positive on it, so That's Wicked for good. I say see it.
Yeah.